Oh my god, guys, welcome back to my channel. It feels so great to say that. To be completely honest, I missed it so much, but I really just needed a, kind of long mental health stretch while I was filling out college applications and everything like that. But I kind of realized that I left you guys literally on a complete cliffhanger. If you didn't know a whole lot about Ted Bundy, I kind of just left you with his childhood and his teen years and all the way up to the upbringing until 1974 when the disappearances started to start happening. So I'm very sorry about that, but it's very late and I want to get this recorded, so let's just get into it. And before I get too far, I'm sorry I did not introduce myself. Hello, my name is Kaylee. I love true crime, and it's something that I've loved for a very long time. I plan on getting, a bachelor's in psychology, as psychology is something that interests me very much. So that's just kind of a background on me. Personally, I love helping people, so it's kind of funny that I like true crime, and I also like talking a lot, so this is something fun. I started it with my friend, and it's kind of just ended with me, and I'd love to do collabs someday. But yes, this is where we are. It's 10:50 at night, so I need to get started. But if you know a little bit about Ted Bundy, he usually preyed on young and attractive college women. Very pretty females that looked like his girlfriend, long brown hair and split it down the middle, kind of skinny. I'll insert a photo here. But, the disappearances started to begin near his home in Washington. Then it kind of moved east to Utah, Colorado, and then finally in Florida. So like I said, he'd often prey on these young women, but when he did it with a ruse. Sorry, had to get a drink. But like any serial killer, he did it with a ruse. He would often wear an arm in a sling, kind of making it look like his arm was in a fake cast, or he'd walk on crutches, try to get people to feel bad for him and then help him. He would often use his charm too, as he was a handsome man. He was easily, I don't want to say captivating, but you saw him and you wouldn't think he was a bad person. People can really hide behind masks just through that. But yeah, he'd either do that or fake a disability or something just to convince his victims to just help him carry books or unload objects from his car and any of that. But once they got into his 1968 tan Volkswagen Beetle or, any other car he stole or was driving at the time, he would then strike them over the head with a crowbar or pipe. After hitting his victims, he would use handcuffs and force them into the vehicle. Bundy had removed the passenger seat in his vehicle and would actually often store it in the back seat or trunk, leaving some empty space so that the victim could lay on the floor so that they would be out of sight when he was driving. So Bundy was actually able to rape and murder many of his victims this way. He typically strangled or bludgeoned his victims as well as mutilating them after death. And he then prolonged the events. If you are very sensitive to certain subjects, I probably wouldn't recommend listening to the rest. The sad thing about Ted Bundy is he was very cruel. I mean, obviously he was a serial killer, but very nasty man. And he did terrible things. But he prolonged his murdering with returning to visits to the corpses or dump sites and taking them home, in order to just gain some type of sexual gratification and just kind of further that. And even in some cases, he would even display their decapitated heads in his apartment that he would be living in at the time. And sometimes he'd sleep with the corpses, but once the smell became pretty unbearable, he couldn't do it anymore. He was done sleeping with them. So once Bundy got caught, I'm kind of gonna skip over that, but there was just kind of a little bit about what he would do to his victims. Now I'm gonna kind of go to the trials. So Bundy's first trial was actually in Utah, and it was actually for aggravated kidnapping of Carol DeRanch. His first trial was on February 23rd, 1976, but despite how he looked and how relaxed and confident he was actually still found guilty and sentenced to 1 to 15 jail sentences in Utah State Prison on June 30th, 1976. A set of determined Colorado investigators were actually dissatisfied with this outcome, and they decided that they had enough evidence to take him tried for the murder of Karen Campbell, so they filed charges against him on October 22nd, 1976. This actually led to his extradition, to Colorado in April 1977, but then he began to make plans to escape. Now, one thing about Ted Bundy is I think a lot of people know that he escaped twice. That's kind of questionable. Like, if he escaped once, how did he escape twice? But stay to the end. So, a set of determined Colorado investigators, like I said, were very dissatisfied with this. And once his extradition did go through, he began to make the plans to escape, like I had mentioned, and he decided that he would actually represent himself at trial. Instead of having, an actual lawyer or anything like that, he was just like, I'm going to do this trial all by myself, because he thought that they weren't getting him far enough. So, since it was him, he was granted library access so he could research his case and see what rights he had. And he actually managed to jump out of a window while on a library visit on June 7th. Oh, that's my sister's birthday. Interesting. Well, police had actually searched the entire surrounding area, and Bundy was actually captured 8 days later when he had broken in to he broke cover to leave town while he was trying to, break into a vehicle. And despite additional security, he actually managed to escape again, like I had mentioned, but this time on December 30th of 1977. And he also climbed through a suspended ceiling panel in the Garfield County Jail where he was being held due to his pending trial. Now, many believe that, I believe personally too, Bundy was literally a chameleon. He could change how he looked very easily. He could, get skinny, get big very easily. It was kind of once he figured out how to do it, he was gonna do it. So that was kind of what was scary about him. But when he escaped the second time, it was actually not even noticed until actually the next day. So by that time, he was, in Chicago, and he had traveled to Tallahassee in Florida. And now he was actually using an alias, Chris Hagen, or Chris Hagen. I'm not sure how you say that, but I'll just say Chris. But Bundy had actually supported himself almost entirely off petty theft. Like most serial killers have done. They, go into cars, take jewelry, try to, theft. I don't really have to explain that much more. If you don't know what theft is, I search it up. just kidding. But, yeah. I'm pretty sure a lot of people know what theft is. Just stealing. But apparently, he was actually unable to quit his murderous impulses, like most serial killers do. He had to kill again. And Bundy struck again, like he planned to, at the Florida State University sorority house on January 14th, 1978. Bundy had murdered Lisa Levy and Margaret Brown, and he attempted to murder Cheryl Thomas, Kathy Kleiner, and Karen Chandler. Bundy was actually not apprehended and was able to flee from the scene. Sadly, Bundy actually did strike again, and this time it was actually his youngest victim. Very disheartening. And on February 15th, Bundy was actually apprehended after a scuffle with a policeman when the VW Beetle he was driving stopped for having stolen license plates, and Bundy's second trial then took place on June 24th, 1979 in Miami, Florida. Now, keep in mind that in Miami, Florida, the death penalty was a huge thing, and Old Sparky was, he was alive. You were allowed to sit on him, and just keep that in mind. So, Bundy's second trial, like I said, was on June 24th in 1979, and this was actually for the charges related to the attacks and murders of the Florida University sorority students. I'm not sure at the time if they didn't know about the 12-year-old Kimberly Leach yet that went missing from her school, but this is just what I've gathered so far. And during that second trial, the testimony of one of the survivors actually proved very damning for Bundy, who actually took at his own defense again and it still didn't help him at all. Dental evidence linked him to the attacks because he had bitten them, and, you know, on areas that shouldn't be bitten. But the jury returned at the verdict of guilty as his crimes before in the first trial, and on the 30th of July of 1979, the judge sentenced Bundy to death twice for the murders by the means of the electric chair. Old Sparky. So Bundy actually continued to maintain his innocence, and he was like, you know, I swear I didn't. But his third trial was then related to Kimberly Leach. By this time, they knew he did it. And on January 7th of 1980, Bundy decided against self-representation again, and his defense counsel pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. So, reason of insanity, this is what I've gathered from certain serial killers. Some will go straight at it. Like, I know I'm insane, man. Like, this happened. Like, I thought I was female, stuff like that. That's what happened with Ed Gein. He thought it was his mom telling him to do it. He dressed up as his mom. He did what he did. If you've ever watched Psycho, you kind of know what I'm referencing right there. Like, that literally was, like, kind of played out version of Ed Gein. I kind of like that movie a lot. If you don't know what I'm talking about the movie Psycho. It was made in 1960 by Alfred Hitchcock. Amazing filmmaker. But, back to, you know, everything. What I've noticed is, once you get, like, convicted of murder or something, then they'll start being like, oh no, I can't die. I'm insane. Reason of insanity. Please. Like, no, sir. You killed more than 13 people. They're like, his victims are estimated up to 100 plus. Like, I'm sorry, but you deserve to die. Like, I'm sorry, Ted Bundy stands. Come at me. Do what you want. But he was a sick man. And, yeah. But I think that's crazy. Like, sound off in the comments below too, but I believe that a lot of people go there once they know what they did, but they won't say they're insane until they actually get convicted. Just a food for thought. But after he was convicted and sent to the electric chair, he was sentenced, I don't know if I already said this, but he was actually sentenced, the death by electrocution on February 7th of 1980 because, like, obviously Bundy had lost all traces of his confident demeanor by this point, and the volume of forensic evidence and eyewitness testimonies linking him to the crime convinced the jury that he was guilty, so there was really no way of getting him out. But now I kind of want to pay a tribute